Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John's report is for the 18th. Well, one of the biggest OPEXs in quite a while happening today, and happening under what we would consider negative market conditions. So that's an interesting one. We do have short-term buyers popping up. That may be enough to hold things in place, but we can expect some wild swings as the reallocation, of course, the contract for June is ending, so that's going to move everyone into the September if you haven't already done that a while ago, but that's a different story. From a NASDAQ standpoint, much stronger. So you've got a divergence between the broader market and just the tech side of things. That has a lot to do with rates and the Fed changing its viewpoint, tapering potentially a little earlier than normal, like a couple of years from now. So it's still ridiculous, but the Eurozone situation continuing to start to show, and the fact that there may be a change in taper obviously makes the dollar a bit more attractive. The potential thought of rising rates, which everybody knew was going to happen at some point. It was just a question of, when people realize that while the recorded inflation rate is always lower, the real inflation rate is a little higher, and it's always been the way it's supposed to be. No way you can sustain the debt without having inflation to make it less expensive. I remember even back to I'm sure how old I am, the 80s, when they were running the deficits, and they thought, oh, how horrible. Well, it didn't take long for a little bit of inflation to make that debt insignificant. Same thing in the 2000s and so on. So it's just the way it works. It's how that setup is. This is the current 5K. Later in the day, after this buy setup came through, didn't have a DOC reset. It still caught momentum, and then white popped above, but we were still carrying on with positive shakeout. Wasn't until we started to see the breakdown over here, but literally the dots started to appear, even at these points. Still fine. Took a little heat, but again, your expectation is the 0%. Well, what happens is the 0% rises and you get a little bit higher fill, but still correct overall, and even clearer when the secondary one came there. But during the day, we had some very nice signals. It was up and down every time we presented with the upper point, waiting for that magenta yellow dip below, giving the short signal at this point, the 50K. It was holding on pretty decent, but you'd had that steel reset below zero, and then once steel crossed back above, confirmed with the magenta over white, gave the rise, and then it broke down again. Same setup coming back down. This one didn't, because you can see when you get this spike of magenta higher than the white, you get there. Oftentimes, though, you end up getting a bunch of bouncing up and down first, and then secondarily happened right here. That one led to refill of previous positive extremes, and then it dipped back down to the low, and then we ended up with that rise later in the day. Once options start expiring, probably as gamma and delta start fading midday, I think things will probably get really interesting as far as range goes. So we'll keep an eye out on that. It should be exciting, and it's going to lead to a whole new setup with the idea that people are going to have to look for potential as to whether or not moving out of equities makes more sense and into something safer. So we'll see how that plays out. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk again later.